guys, welcome back to our channel. This is Yvonne from Ginger Chick Rehab, and if you're new here and visiting our channel for the first time, this is something I do with my husband Chris. We take thrifted found items and we make them over here on our channel, and we share the process with you all of what we do to these items to get them ready to resell, and we resell them here locally at a local antique mall. So in today's video, not only do we go into thrift stores, but I'm also looking at Marketplace for pieces of furniture. So I'm constantly on Marketplace when I get a little bit of time, though a lot of times our local Marketplace, I don't really drive too awful far to go get a piece of furniture. So our local market, if you don't jump on it real quick, it's usually gone by the time I see it, or it's pending. So one day I stumbled across this Hutch, and I knew the two pieces didn't go together, so I thought they were just selling the green painted Hutch on the top for $75. But when we actually got them, and when we went there to get them, it was both of the pieces for $75. So what a Marketplace score. So just going into the Hutch, you're like, okay, well, the bottom piece, okay, you take what you can find. So anyway, this is the process of how we had to get all that paint off. Oh yes, me and Chris spent, we call them our date nights, quite a few date nights stripping paint off. That's not something we usually do. We usually can sand it or one coat of stripper, not something we normally do, but it had so much hidden detail all over all those layers of paint that was just filling it in. So to do this piece justice, we had to remove that paint. Was it fun? Yeah, it's a process. It's all about that end result. So please stay tuned to the end where I do the reveal. I absolutely love staging these pieces for you all, and of course, through the whole content of what we did to this piece to get it all fixed up, and well, it's not new, but it's newer now. Oh, so here it is in all its glory. I'm not sure what you all think about these two pieces. If you think it's a hot mess, if you thought, oh, I'll just scroll past this on Marketplace, not even give it a second look. And I know that these two pieces have nothing to do with each other. Somebody used these in their closet for extra storage. But when it comes to age and that price of $75 for these two pieces, oh my goodness, I just could not help myself. And that green, no, I'm not the fan, but I see behind it that green. I see that beauty inside. And luckily, Chris did too. So as Chris is taking the doors off, you can really see the inside. Look at that wooden system and how you can adjust the shelves. That is just, I don't know if that's an age thing. Not many people do that nowadays, but I absolutely love the patina of the inside of this. So hopefully, as we're trying to remove that green paint, that we can save that patina, that aged of the inside of this Hutch. Okay, you can all say it who are regular to my channel. My pet peeve of painting over hardware, and look at, so Chris has to chisel his way through layers of paint, because yeah, it ended up being layers, you guys, but to find where the screws, the nails, or whatever it is that's holding on this handle. There were some random pieces of wood. As you see, only one side was painted green, so they must have moved it up into their closet, and this is the side against the wall. That this big of a piece, you probably weren't going to pull it out. So for whatever reason, these pieces of wood was needed on the side. So yep, he has to chisel those off too. One thing we don't do an awful lot here on our channel when we're flipping furniture is paint strippers. So, yep, but this beast needed to have paint stripper. Once we got it started and he took that hardware off, you could tell that there was multi layers of paint. Of course, in the hopes when we purchased it that it was just going to be that one green. So, yep, just some strong, unfortunately, stripper. I'm not really sure what type of paint this is. And then, yep, just going to have to apply it and then let it sit. Oh, as you get impatient and you start to test on the piece, oh, look at that. You can see so many different colors in there. I think myself, I count at least 4. Now, our reasoning for not just taking a sander to this piece is that detail. If we go in with a sander, try to strip that paint off, one, we're not really sure what type of paint it is. And then 2, there's just all this little bitty detail that has just been filled in with layers of paint. So for us, it's well worth the time, even though, yes, you guys, we are not stripping this down to get down to that natural. We're never going to be able to match the inside of that cabinet, but we definitely want to work all this paint off and get back to those details. So when we paint it, that you can see all those details, all that detail that has been painted in and filled in with paint. I'm not sure how many of you all are watching that caught my Instagram story when I said everybody's date nights look a little bit on the different side. So we called this our date night. We had 3 nights of stripping this paint off. Oh my goodness, yep. Just plain and simply had to put a lot of that stripper on and then wrap it in plastic and just let it sit. So I believe this was the start of the 3rd night. So we were doing one more round of stripper, seeing how much more we can. And there I am counting 1 color, 2, 3 greens, and a cream. So yes, oh my gosh, our shop was a mess with all that stripped off paint. Oh, yucky. But it was the love of this piece. You definitely have to do something because you love it. So now he's going to go in with some mineral spirits and see how much more we can get the rest of this cleaned up with some mineral spirits, some steel wool, and a lot of rags that are going to get thrown away. Okay, so now it's 4 nights later, and this is what it looks like. We got it all washed off, hopefully all the stripper, all the mineral spirits. So now you can actually see all this gorgeous detail. Yep, and Chris actually took some chisels and some picks and actually worked into all those detail areas to get a lot of the paint. And yeah, plain and simply, some of the paint just would not budge. Now, for some of the flatter sides, he's just going to go in with the orbital sander and see how much more, especially since we've stripped it, we've scraped it. You know that grain is all raised. It's not very smooth now. So to get that smoothest paint job at the end, just going to go in and sand it as best as he can. Some of that is just really on there. So, yep, but he's not going to hit the detailed areas. He's just going to go with that flat area, and the detail areas where he takes a little bit of a chisel, a little bit of a pick, and just works a little bit more of that paint off there. Yes, when it came to this piece, if we did not see the vision of how beautiful this would be, we may not have. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people steered clear of that green when they saw it on a marketplace. So to do this piece justice and get it off the floor, not sitting on top of that bench, we purchased these legs from a gentleman that turns legs and spindles and this kind of stuff in our antique booth, so sorry I can't link them, but I definitely thought that these really would go well with these pieces. And on that front of the cabinet, there's just that detail, and it's the same with coming down. These legs are, so Chris is trying to mark where it looks like it's one continuous piece of wood. But now she is heavy, so that's just, you can't just attach 4 legs and call it good. Yeah, he actually is going to have to create a somewhat of a base, something that you can still see those legs. You have some strong hard wood, something that we can paint to match. So I had to go to the Home Depot, find some hardwood. You don't want a weak pine holding up this very heavy cabinet. Let me see if I can explain this as best as I can. So he's cutting the board to length. He needs 2 boards on the sides, 2 boards in the front, and then he's going to use the Kreg pocket hole jig to screw the boards into the legs. So now he's using some Tite-Bond glue on the edges that you're not screwing in. We want to make sure that this base is going to be able to withstand this top. So some Tite-Bond glue, spreading it around, and then he's going to be, he has marked off where he needs this to be, so it's one continuous flow, so you see the front of those legs. And so now he's using the Kreg also has its own little screws that come. And so now this is a great secure fit. So we got that hardwood onto this other hardwood of the leg, and then he's screwing these in. That you can visually see it. Now you understand what I mean, where we wanted to see that corner, that front of those legs, so it looked like it was flowing all the way through. Now he's got all 4 sides put together, those Kreg jigs, and screwing these. Oh my gosh, it just makes a nice tight package. So then he has some corner braces in there also to make sure that this is nice and secure, and boy does he have it screwed on there, and wow, this has just totally changed this piece. There's one little area all the way up top, but it is a sharp edge. And even though now that it's on the legs, it's a tall piece, but you still got to fix that little area. You're going to be able to see that detail, that it's not a sharp edge, that it has been damaged. So he's just taking some wood epoxy and going to go ahead and mix that. It's a 2-part that you just mix with your hands, and then go ahead and just fill in that spot so that when it's all painted, you don't even know it was missing. After it is dry and set up, you can go in, and he's using a file to sand it just the way that the edges are. It's a detail area. There's a couple bumps down. He wants to make sure that he gets this matching up. And if a bath was ever needed, yes, this piece definitely needs a good cleaning with some hot water and some Superclean, especially since we stripped all that paint, we used all those mineral spirits, we got it wet, oh yeah. So yep, just going to town and now being able to get this piece clean, because you know we're getting closer to painting it. These are not one of those glass inserts that are easily removed. They are nailed in there, so we're not even going to attempt to accidentally try to remove those and then break the glass. So nope, going to stay away from that. So just going to go ahead and spend the time to tape them off and put some contact paper on both sides of this glass. Now with all the work that's been done to this piece, yes, we could prime it, but we want to do that black undercoat so we can pop those details. So to even out the porosity and all the different textures that are going on in this wood, Chris is going in with some shellac and giving it a couple coats, especially since this age of that wood, you know you're going to have a little bit of problem when we go to paint this at the end with some bleed through. So now that he's got that couple coats of shellac on, the shellac, you let it dry 10-15 minutes in between coats, and hopefully it is good and sealed on. So yep, that's what we wanted to do. We want to pop all these details, and undercoating it in black is just going to make that pop. So just going in with the ready-to-use paint in the black onyx right off the shelf from Walmart. We're still blessed to be able to get that here locally, no problems yet. So yep, he's just going in and getting all those edges where he knows the places that he's going to distress it at the end. Now to make sure that black is good and on there, so when he paints over it and he goes to distress it, it stays, he's going to seal it in using some Rust-Oleum clear coat in matte. Just something, you could use a polyacrylic, just something to seal that black is not top coated in. So if you went to go sand it, it may just come up when you sand it, or it may make a gray mucky mess. So you need, if you're going to paint over the black, you do need to seal it in with something. Oh, I can already see the beauty in this piece just by that black showing off the detail. Well worth the time. Yes, it was 4 long days stripping it, but well worth the time. So now he's going in with some Kills paint and primer in the flat white. Yep, we're still lucky. We still have that here at our Walmart also. I'm not sure what's going on with other Walmarts, if it's just a supply and demand kind of thing. But anyway, yep, going to be painting this white, even though the black is really making it pop. Our initial plan was that white would definitely make that aged patina wood inside pop. So as you see, Chris is kind of having a technical malfunction here. I think that he didn't have his tripod and his camera screwed just right, and we're kind of going up in the air. You didn't really want to see him painting all that white, did ya? That's always just one of those things that you don't even realize till you go to move your camera down and you're like, hey, that's not pointed in the right direction. Now this is the very top of the piece. Sometimes you forget when you're spraying away with that shellac to grab the top, but somebody might see that, so it does matter. But this is what we were talking to about, how that piece was going to bleed through. So yep, now it needs a couple coats of shellac to stop that from happening. So you definitely can tell a difference between that very first coat and that very second coat. That first coat is just getting it on there, and that second coat is definitely starting to finish it up, even though it'll take at least 3, if not 4 coats to get the white that we're looking for. Unfortunately, the hardware was just as hard to get all those layers of paint off, just as much as it was the cabinet. So I'd soaked it in Dawn dish soap. I'd scraped as much off as I could. I soaked it again the next night in Murphy's oil soap and really hot water, boiled water. And so plain and simply, Chris just has to scrape what I couldn't get off, the rest of it off. It just didn't, especially on these hinges part, it did not want to come off. This is always that moment where, as a thrifter, I'm like, I really need to thrift a crock pot just for taking paint off of hardware. But actually, we don't even really run into that too awful much. Well, that took a little while. So now that it's all cleaned and is in working order, yes, because that paint, when you get that buildup of paint, I'm sure those hinges weren't opening properly as much as they could be. So going in with some Rust-Oleum paint and primer in the flat black to get these painted up. And then to protect that freshly black painted hardware, I'm going to seal it in with a top coat of Rust-Oleum, the clear coat in matte. Luckily, this piece doesn't have a whole bunch of paint to remove, but it is missing these pieces of wood. So this must have been the bottom piece to something. I had just done a cottagecore flip video, and when I made these into welcome signs, these wooden ironing boards, I didn't need the mechanism on the back of it. So as Chris was removing the mechanisms, which actually was not an easy task, man, they did not want these to come off back in the day, or I don't know how old these are. But as he's removing these pieces, he's got his hands on them. He's looking at that patina, that age of the wood. Some of the pieces are a little bit smaller, some are a little bit bigger. And in his mind, he's like, I wonder if they would fit in that space where that bottom cabinet is missing some pieces. Not sure if you could tell by the first picture if it was close enough, but yeah, see, there's just these pieces of wood. And so his plan was to go buy hardwood, oak, try to match it up, try to get it to stain, which is not normally, we're not refinishers, but this is a beautiful piece and we have no plans, if you're wondering, to paint this piece. So this mechanism, this standing mechanism off these ironing boards, was definitely a God wink moment to finish this beautiful piece off. So now what he's doing here is he's cutting it down to the thickness that he needs to be able to attach them to those pieces. Although it's not a perfect match, it is a great match. I have to say myself that you can have it lay flat. It's got that little edge of it's been rounded. It's not a square piece. That's hard to get when you're just buying a new piece from Home Depot to try to match up. So to get that edge of a wood that's been used and touched and worn with time, definitely will do this little edging justice. Now to make this piece just a little bit easier to slide around, it is just wood. We're not going to add any feet to it, not going to do anything like that. What he's just going to do is add those little plastic glides that help it to slide around. It'll help it to slide around on carpet, and maybe help it if you put some felt on a hardwood floor, but at least it'll be easier to slide around. So now this needs a good cleaning of some Superclean also. Even though we are not prepping it to paint, we're prepping it to get clean. He is going to do a little something to the top and recondition the wood anyway, and maybe get the color to match a little bit more on that top. I don't think that top was ever really made to be seen. I think it was, like I said earlier, I think it was supposed to have some other cabinet on it, but we are going to keep it as is. I don't know what you all think about that, but sometimes pieces should just be what pieces are, and sometimes they don't always have to be painted. So now we're going to hope that this Danish oil and a walnut finish is going to be dark enough to color match that top and bring this whole piece together. If you're wondering, no, we are not refinishers. Everything we learn is just by trial and error. And Chris and I really enjoy Thomas Johnson. He is a woodworker that has a YouTube channel. And oh my goodness, if you want to learn how to do some refinishing of furniture, though, like we said, we are not refinishers of furniture. A lot of the tricks that he has learned over time of how to repair things, we have learned from his channel. So if I remember to link it down below, if not, check out Thomas Johnson on YouTube. He re-oiled the entire piece and got it all cleaned up. You can actually see now that there's inserts of veneer board on there. While that oil is soaking in and seeing if he needs a second coat on the top, he's going over and start to work on sanding the other cabinet, sanding to make it smooth and also sanding to show all that detail areas where he'd painted that black. So he's got some 220 sandpaper, and then he'll press down a little bit harder on those edges that he wants to show that black. And then when it comes to the flatter spots, he just lightly sands over that just to make sure that it's nice and smooth. With the assistance of the air compressor to get all that sanding dust blown out of the way. Yeah, when he comes to the shop, boy, do you have a lot of dust always. Before removing that contact paper, he's going to go in and do some Varathane finishing wax. Just that is a Kills paint and primer. We got it shellacked. That paint should be good and on there, but this is just one more level of protection to finish this piece off. And then a lot of times, sometimes that wax doesn't like to come off on the glass so easily, so that's why we go ahead and leave that contact paper on. And then now we can go in and remove that contact paper, and you really can get a feel for how this is turning out. But he has put a little bit of a layer of a tape underneath that, and so he's just going to take his knife to release that. You don't want to just start ripping up your tape, because a lot of times it's attached to that paint and you might be pulling paint off. Just because the paint is dry doesn't mean it is cured yet. It usually takes a couple weeks to 30 days for a paint to cure. Just to be on the safe side, run a little X-Acto knife or something like that. How many of you all have pulled up tape and all of a sudden it's taking your paint with it? So now we can go in and do all those detail edges on this piece and get all that to pop. Well worth the time. I know it was 4 days of stripping this paint off to show all this beautiful detail, but it was because of that detail that we spent all that time stripping it off. Yeah, remember our 3 nights of date nights of stripping paint. After getting that all sanded, distressed, we got an air compressor to blow off the sanding dust and Varathane wax to finish it up. Now he can start replacing the hardware and get these cabinet doors back on. And this cabinet has the simplest, most elegant little latch system. I absolutely just love it. It doesn't take away from anything of this cabinet. It just closes the doors and does what it's supposed to do and keeps them shut. So we've actually never even used Danish oil before this video and absolutely love what it did to that other piece. So to freshen up the inside of this piece also, he's gonna go ahead and just recondition this wood, make it pop, bring it all together. Okay, you all, would you have given up when it got to day 2 of stripping paint off? We knew that it was used in a closet. We knew that it had the 1 coat of paint on, but nope, did not know that it had 4 coats of paint on. But to bring it back to what it deserved to be, to see all that beautiful detail in this piece, even though we knew we are not refinishers, we are painters. So yeah, so to get all that paint out so you could see that detail when you distressed it was well worth our time just to bring it back to its glory. And I know, did we surprise you that we didn't paint that bottom piece? There was just something about that bottom piece. It just needed to stay as, it just needed a little fixing up, God wink moment, that those ironing board leftover pieces of wood fit. What you have to say, that's a God wink moment, because what is the chances that that was the right width? So anyway, it was just absolutely beautiful, and if I had a place for both of these pieces in my house, I would not be reselling them. So I don't know, this is a different kind of piece for us, so I would say the Hutch we'd probably resell in the $350, $400 mark maybe, and then that bottom piece I definitely would go over $200. I'm not really sure. I have to look around at anybody else that's doing furniture or, you know, kind of price assess what we think it would go for, but unfortunately they have to wait their turn. We only can fit a couple pieces of furniture in our retail booths at a time, so we are super excited. Hopefully they can go in soon. So thank you all for watching today's video, and if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. Your kind compliments, your kind words, you guys are always so supportive of what we do, and just giving us a thumbs up lets YouTube know that you like our kind of content. And if you were checking out our channel for the first time and you liked what you saw, hit the subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.